Hey y'all, today we are making homemade hamburger helper. So first up, we're gonna make the lasagna flavor. So get you a bowl, and to your bowl, you're gonna add a half a cup of powdered milk. I'm using the non-fat, that's what I have, or the low fat, whatever that is. You can use the whole milk, powdered milk if you want to. Whatever you have will work just fine. Then we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. This is just going to thicken your sauce up a little bit. So if you want to use arrowroot or something else in place of this, you absolutely can, because it's not a huge amount. Then I'm going to add in a tablespoon and a half of tomato bouillon. If you don't have tomato bouillon, you could use just chicken bouillon right here. And we're going to add something later. You know, you'll see. But so if you don't have the tomato, it's fine. Just use chicken. Then you're going to add in a 1/4 teaspoon of basil. And you can absolutely substitute, like I'm doing basil and thyme and parsley, but you could do like an Italian seasoning or just some oregano. Whatever flavors you like will be fine. I added in about 1/8 of a teaspoon of thyme. It's not my favorite, but I do like a little taste of it, just a tiny bit. Then I added in about a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. I'm adding in a teaspoon of parsley. Then we're going to add a teaspoon of garlic powder. And y'all, coming up, make sure you're subscribed, because we're going to be making our own homemade garlic powder, onion powder, and stuff like that too. We got lots of good homemade stuff coming up. So then you're going to add in a 1/4 cup of minced onions, because I love me some minced onions, y'all. If you don't want to do the minced onion, do some, you know, not a whole 1/4 cup, but do a little onion powder or something. Make it your own, y'all. So the last thing we're going to add into our seasoning mix is going to be a 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. That is all we're going to use for our seasoning blend, our seasoning packet, if you will, for this one. And then you're just going to mix that up really good, just to make sure it's all good and incorporated. And then you're going to add your stuff to your jar. Now, I'm using a 32-ounce jar for all 3 of these today, just so you know what size jar I'm using. So you're just going to scoop your seasoning down in there, and I just find it easier and prettier if you put the seasoning on the bottom and then add the pasta or the noodles or whatever you call it. So dump that right into your jar. And if you don't have a canning funnel and you're making a lot of these homemade things, you're going to need to get you one, because it's going to make your life a lot easier. So I'm using the mini bow tie pasta for this, because I just love this in, like, if I make lasagna soup and stuff, I love the little bow tie pasta. And these are the little mini ones. So I'm adding in 3 cups of that. If you use a bigger bow tie pasta, you're obviously not going to be able to get 3 cups in there. So you may have to just figure it out and adjust it if you use something different than what I'm using. But that filled my jar completely up. So now all you're going to have to do is seal your jar up. You can vacuum seal it if it's going to be in there for a while. But otherwise, just take it just like that to the cabinet, and it's going to be ready anytime you want some hamburger helper. So y'all know I'm going to cook it for y'all. So when you get ready to cook this, you're going to add about 1 pound of ground beef to your pan or your pot or whatever you're cooking it in. And we're going to brown this ground beef. You're just going to brown it till it's done, and then you're going to drain any grease off of it if you have a meat that's not real lean. If it's just super lean and you don't have a lot of grease, obviously you don't have to drain it, but you don't want this to have, you know, be floating in grease. So brown your meat up, drain any excess grease off, and then we are going to make this. Now, I'm not going to show you the final product right now, but they will be at the end of the video. You know, stick around and you'll see what it looks like when it's all done. So once your meat is browned, you're going to add in 4 cups of water, and then you're going to add in the contents of your jar. The whole jar, dump the whole thing. Y'all know I like to put my seasoning blends or my seasoning packets in a Ziploc bag, but for this one, we don't need to do that. This is only 1 serving. It's all going in at the same time, so that's why we can do that one this way. So all the contents of your jar goes in. Mix that up really, really good to make sure you don't have any lumps and clumps and things. And then to this, we're going to add in some tomato sauce. I didn't have any small jar, so I'm just using a big jar, can, whatever that is. So I'm going to use about half of that big can. So you need about 8 ounces of tomato sauce. And this is why I said if you don't have tomato bouillon, it'll be okay, because you're still going to add the tomato flavor when we add the tomato sauce. I just like the extra that it gets from the tomato bouillon. That's my personal preference. So once you bring that to a boil, you're going to cover that, cut the heat down to a simmer, and let it simmer for about 15 or 20 minutes, just until your noodles are done, okay? And you can see I have a little bit of extra liquid in here, but that's okay. We're going to add some cheese to this. My burner is turned off, and then I'm just going to put the lid back on and let it finish soaking up the rest of that juice, okay? So I'm adding in about 1.5 cups of mozzarella. Now you can just spread it out and leave it on the top, put the lid on, and just let it melt like it is. But in my opinion, I'm going to mix it up anyway. So I just go ahead and mix my cheese right on into it and just be done with it, you know? I mean, it just kind of makes sense to me. But like I said, I mix my cheese in real good. Then I'm going, like I said, my burner is off at this point. So I'm just going to mix this up good, and then I'm going to put the lid on it and let the cheese melt all the way and the rest of that juice soak up into the noodles. Maybe, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. You don't have to time it. It'll be fine. But that's it. That is our lasagna hamburger helper, and it is fabulous. So next up, cheeseburger macaroni. This is like all kids' favorites, I think. So anyway, what you're going to use for this one is 1/3 cup of the powdered milk. Then we're going to add in a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper. Then we're going to add in a teaspoon of garlic powder. We're going to add a teaspoon of onion powder. And again, these are the seasonings that I like. These may not match exactly what the hamburger helper box says, but this is what I'm using. So that's why you're seeing these particular seasonings. So then I added 1 teaspoon of parsley, and we're going to do 1/4 cup of minced onion. Again, we like the onion around this house, so I'm adding in some onion. If you don't like quite as much, add a little bit less. Do however you want to do yours, but this is the way that I think the flavors are really, really good, so that's why I'm using this. So you're going to mix that up really, really good, like the first one. Then we're going to put that right down, and I'm making all these in the same day. That's why you see my cannon funnel that's already looking a little dusty, because I just made the other one. I didn't cook them all in the same day, but I did put them all together in the same day. Now this one is not going to make as much like of the seasoning as the other two do. I don't know why it works. We also don't use as much pasta, but it makes the same amount. There you go. The pasta's smaller. So you're going to add in there 2 cups of your elbow noodles, okay? And that's it. That's all we're going to do for this one. It's super, super simple. 32-ounce jar just like the other one, but you see it's not quite as full as the other two. But like I said, it's going to make a really big amount. So when you get ready to cook this, we are going to, what are we doing? We're browning 1 pound of ground beef, because again, you know, this is hamburger helper. So we're using hamburger meat for a hamburger helper. I can't even talk. Hamburger helper. So for this one, once you have your meat browned and drained, you're going to end up using 4 cups of water, but I had my 2-cup measuring cup out, so I'm going to add it twice. That's why you're going to see that. So after I added the first 2 cups, I went ahead and dumped the contents of my jar in there and just kind of mixed it up a little bit. And then I'm going to add the other 2 cups of water. All of these are going to cook pretty much the same way. They may use a little bit different measurements as far as the liquid and stuff goes. And all 3 are a little bit different at the end, because 2 you add cheese, 1 you don't add cheese. You know, I mean, you see. But I don't want y'all to think that everything is exactly the same way and that you can just, you know, you need to watch them or at least read the recipes, because they're all a little bit different. So you're going to let that come to a boil. You're going to cut it down to a simmer. We're going to put the lid on it, and we're going to let this cook for about 15 to 20 minutes, okay? Once your pasta is nice and tender, it's all cooked, You're going to give it another good little stir. Make sure nothing's stuck down there to the bottom. And you can see there's a tiny bit of liquid, just like with the other one. It's going to be fine. So we're going to add in some cheese. I had this Fiesta blend. Use whatever kind of cheese you want. Sharp cheddar, regular cheddar. Shred you up some pepper jack and put in there if you want to. Doesn't make any difference. Whatever you like, put it in there. But I put 2 cups of this in here, roughly. Obviously, I didn't measure it. And then you're just going to mix this up. Now, this is not, it looks like a lot of cheese, but this is not going to be like cheesy like a macaroni is cheesy, okay? But it is cheesy flavored, if that makes any sense. It's not going to be like stringy and gooey. Okay, does that, y'all know what I'm saying? But you will taste the cheese and it's delicious. So I mixed it up in there, pop the lid back on it, let it sit another few minutes to soak everything up. Last but not least, y'all, we're making stroganoff. So for this one, you're going to do 2/3 of a cup of your powdered milk. Okay, 2/3 of a cup. That's why you see me scooping twice. I don't want anybody to be confused. But like I said, the recipes are down in the description box, the printable recipes. So now we're going to add in some powdered sour cream. If you don't have this, don't want to use it, don't like it, whatever the case is, leave it out and just add maybe a 1/4 cup of real sour cream when you cook it. So I added a tablespoon of the powdered sour cream. Then we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of onion powder and 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Again, you can season this to your taste. It is a hamburger helper dupe, so we're not putting mushrooms and all those kind of things in here, but you could add some at the end if you wanted to. So then I added in about a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper. Then I'm going to add in a half, no, that's not paprika. That is paprika. A teaspoon. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, y'all. That's a teaspoon of paprika. Just ignore me. Okay, and a half teaspoon of oregano. I was trying to read down my list, and I had those written in the wrong order. I really do know what I'm doing sometimes, y'all, but it's not when I'm trying to do a voiceover, apparently. So for this one, I'm also adding 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. You can also substitute the arrowroot and stuff. So then you're going to need like a packet of brown gravy mix. I'm using my homemade brown gravy mix that we made together, and I'm using 3 tablespoons of that. And that's it. You're going to mix it up really, really good, and that is your seasoning for your stroganoff, okay? So same thing with the other two, 32-ounce jar. You're going to get your cannon funnel back out, and we are going to scoop this right down into the bottom of our jar. Now, obviously, if you don't want to store this in a jar, you don't have to. If you just want to make this, you could just make it. Like if you just want to put all the stuff together and just cook it one night, you absolutely could. It doesn't have to be stored in a jar, but this is how you can store it if you want to make a bunch of these up or give these away as gifts. Whatever you want to do, this is how you would do it. So now I'm adding in medium-sized egg noodles. I'm going to add 3 cups. If you use a bigger egg noodle, you're going to need to use less because not as much is going to fit in your jar, okay? And it's going to look like it's too much, but just be gentle, jiggle it around a little bit, and it will all fit down in there, I promise, okay? Again, 32-ounce jar. So then you're just going to seal that up, and you are good to go to put that on the shelf until you're ready for it or give it as a gift. So to cook this one, we're going to do 1 pound of ground beef, same as the other two. We're going to brown this up, and then if you have one that has, you know, the fat in it or whatever, then you're going to drain any grease off of it, so because we don't want greasy hamburger helper, okay? Once you have drained your grease off, we're going to add in about 5 cups of water, and then you're going to add in the contents of your package. Well, I guess it's a package, but anyway, the contents of your jar. The contents of your jar. So you're going to add that in, and just like with the other two, we're going to mix this up really good. Just make sure that you get your seasonings really good and mixed in there, so you don't end up just biting into a dry clump of seasoning. You know what I mean? So just make sure you get it good and mixed up. It mixes in pretty well, as you can see. I'm not even using a whisk. I'm just using a little spoon. So mix it up real good. We're going to let this come to a boil. Once it starts to boil, you're going to cut it down to a simmer, Put your lid on it, and we're gonna let it cook for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then you're going to remove the lid from this one and let it thicken up, okay? That's it. That's all you have to do. These are all so super simple, y'all. This is our beef stroganoff. When it's done, it is absolutely delicious. All three of these were so good. And then don't forget about our cheeseburger macaroni, a favorite with the kids, of course. I don't know, cheeseburger macaroni was never my favorite. I always liked the lasagna and the beef stroganoff, but I had to make this one too, and it is really good because it's not like the box stuff, it's elevated. So last but absolutely not least, because like I said, this one was my favorite, is the lasagna flavored. These are all super good, like I said, 57 times. Make as many as you want, whatever flavors that you like, and then you'll have them anytime you want them. You don't have to use the box stuff. And let me tell you, this will take you back to your childhood, back in the days when, you know, we had Hamburger Helper all the time. But anyway, I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. That is all I have for y'all today, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.